In today's video, I'm going to go over some characters I would quite like to see within Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, as well as some skins that I think would be cool to see too. I will go through this as quickly as I can so I don't hold you guys all up all day long. But anyway, I think all these characters will fit in quite well with this game, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's go through the list. So starting off with the first character, we're going to go with Rusty Walrus. And if you don't know who Rusty Walrus was, he was from Crash Twinsanity. He appeared for a tiny bit on the boat deck, basically. He chases you down a little corridor. He, to me, was always kind of a really out of place character, but at the same time was a really cool looking character. And actually, I really like the quote he said when he chased you. But no, I think he's a really clever character to have in Crash. And when it comes down to having him in Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, I think he would fit in quite well with the advanced character. The advanced characters are the heavy characters, as Rusty Walrus is a very big character. So he would fit in very well in the big character category, and of course that means he'll have very good speed, he'll have very good acceleration, but he will have terrible turning. But yeah, I think he would be a very nice addition to this game. I'm sure you could come up with all sorts of weird costumes for him too. Second character I think should be added into this game, and I mean, to be honest, I think everyone at this point thinks he should be in it, is Nitrus Brio. I mean, come on. At this point, he's been put in the Insane Trilogy. I'm sure he'd be easy as hell to port over to Team Racing. I don't see why not, personally. And quite frankly, he should really be in this game. We never saw Nitrus Brio in a single racing game ever in the past when it came to Crash, which was always kind of a shame, and I thought he would have been really cool to have seen in the past. For the game when it comes to racing, we should have him as an intermediate character, I think, as he, in my opinion, would be quite similar to Cortex or basically Coco if you're on Crash's team, and they're both in the intermediate character area. So he would have good speed, he'd have good acceleration, and he'd have great turning, which makes him even overall. But it would be really nice to see Embryo, and in theory you could have some pretty interesting skins for him as well, I'm sure. And while I don't really show a picture of it in this, I think as a skin, you could also have Embryo as his giant frog self or whatever. You could call him a giant frog or a giant Hulk, whatever you want to call him, really. That would be an awesome skin to see in this game. And also having him talk like that as well throughout the game when he does something good or gets hit or something, rather than speaking normally like he normally would here, as this kind of version of himself. But yeah, anyway, Embryo I think should be added in. Also briefly here, Embryo's art picture of like his face or whatever is actually within one of the levels in this game already. So I feel like they're kind of teasing that he's coming at some point, but at the moment he's not in it, so I thought I would mention him. Next character we're going to move on to is Ebenezer Von Clutch. If you don't know who he is, he was in Crash Tag Team Racing, and he's kind of like the main character of the game, as you are constantly trying to help him to stay alive, basically. And yeah, he was absolutely hilarious within Crash Tag Team Racing and definitely stood out among most other characters in that game. That's why I think if he comes into this game, you're adding in a lot of humour again this time round. And it'd be nice to see him return anyway, as he does look incredibly odd compared to most other Crash characters. So yeah, you definitely see someone who looks very different on the track. And quite frankly, I think that he would fit in well with a beginner character. Some people might disagree with me on that one, that's fair enough, but I think he would be a good beginner character, which means he would have average speed, a good acceleration, and really good turning. But yeah, I don't know if everyone will agree with me on the whole beginner character area for him. That's just where I personally think he should be. But he would definitely be a very funny character to have on the track if they made him as funny as he was back in Crash Tag Team Racing. Also, I'd like to add in here that at the moment it's sort of been kind of teased by Bearminator that Crash Tag Team Racing content will come into Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. However, we don't know exactly what is coming into Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled from Crash Tag Team Racing, but we will find out, I'm sure, in the long run within the Grand Prix. Now, this will be an odd character for some people, as most people will probably be like, who the hell is Bearminator? Well, Bearminator came from a game called Crash Bash. He only ever appeared really in that. However, you could kind of say that he was in the earlier games, as you do get chased in a lot of levels and Crash 2 and that by a giant polar bear. And in some ways this is kind of who he is in Crash Bash, in my opinion anyway, just with a hat on and looks 1,000 times more angry. But yeah, I think it would be cool to see him in the game as well, especially if you had him next to Polar. That'd be kind of funny, I think. And yeah, I think as a character for this game, he would fit in well with the advanced character area, because again, he is huge. He is like the biggest character to probably bring in at this point, which would mean that he'd have amazing speed, of course, good acceleration, and his turning would be awful. But yeah, I think he would be a nice fit into the game, and I'm sure you could do all sorts of strange costumes in that for him as well. He's not the most significant character in the world, but he would definitely be an interesting one to see. Next character, a lot of people are going to really hate me probably for putting him in here, and a lot of people will probably disagree that he should even be on this list, but I've got Rilla Roo. Now again, if you don't know who Rilla Roo is, he's from Crash Bash. And he only ever appears in Crash Bash. He never appeared in any other Crash Bandicoot games since. And the problem I always had with Rilla Roo is he never actually had any background to him. There was never any proper story to Rilla Roo. He just sort of was a character that existed, and that was that. But even with that all put to the sideline for a minute, he, I think, would be nice to see in this game. I wouldn't say he's absolutely needed, but I think he would be definitely a nice character to see racing around the tracks. It would be cool to see Tiny next to a giant monkey. So yeah, I would like to see Rilla Roo come in some ways, and even if they could give him some sort of story background in the game, that would be great. I'm not expecting them to, but if they could, that would be great to see, and it would actually give Rilla Roo a purpose to Crash again. He has completely lost all of his purpose in Crash, so it'd be nice to see him actually have a purpose to be in Crash Bandicoot again, which he never really had much of in the first place. But if Rilla Roo came in, as he's quite a big character, I would put him in the advanced character area, and he would have amazing speed, good acceleration, and really bad turning. Most people will not want to see Rilla Roo ever appear in another Crash game again, but I think it'd be nice to give him another chance. Next character we should definitely see come into this game is Nina Cortex, without any doubt at this point. I mean, there are lots of fans of Nina Cortex out there, and quite frankly, she was a pretty big hit within Twinsanity. I thought she was a pretty cool character back in Twinsanity as well. However, I'll admit her later on versions of herself, I'm not such a big fan. Even though she may have been a bit ruined later on within Crash to the Titans and that, her Twinsanity self I think is very good. And personally, I would quite like to see Nina Cortex, her Twinsanity version, come into this game. And I'm sure, again, you could have lots of cool costumes and that for her as well. We have seen her face on a window in one of the levels, so I reckon she might be coming along sooner than we think. And I would set her as a beginner character, which means she would have average speed, good acceleration, and incredible turn. Next character I think we should see come from Crash Tag Team Racing is Pasadena O'Possum. Personally, I thought she was probably the second most entertaining character in Crash Tag Team Racing. I didn't really think much of many of the characters in Crash Tag Team Racing. I thought they were all pretty awful. Even the ones that we already knew, like Crash and that, I just didn't think they were very good, but I thought her character was well developed. I think there's a real lack, obviously. I know now that we're going to have like the Trophy Girls and also Tana come into this game, but there is a bit of a lack of female characters in this game. Of course, we have Coco at the moment, we've got the Trophy Girls and Tana coming along, but that's all we have. We don't have anyone else yet. Of course, we could have Nina come along as well, which would definitely boost up the amount of female characters we have then. But I still think it would be nice to have Pasadena in there as well. Personally, I thought she was a great character in Tag Team Racing. I think she would be really good here as well. And I don't see why we can't have her, really. I expect she will probably come along at some point in the future. I have a feeling she will, but I'm not certain of that. Anyway, I would definitely put her in the intermediate character area. It means that she has good speed, of course, good acceleration and good turning, so that she's basically equal on all fronts. Next character I'm putting in mainly because of the fact that, well, we do have Crash and also Fake Crash within the game already. Of course, both of these were present within Crash Team Racing, so it makes sense for, well, them to reappear again in Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. I think it would be cool also to add in Evil Crash. Evil Crash, if you don't know where he's from, he was from Twinsanity. He only appeared in it briefly, but at the same time I always thought he was kind of a cool idea, and I felt like he was very underdeveloped again back in Twinsanity and probably could have used more fleshing out. In all honesty, I really liked Evil Crash either way. I think he looks very good, and personally he came across as quite a different form of Crash, that's for sure. And yeah, I would like to see Evil Crash within the game. Of course, if we have him in the game, he'll be an intermediate character, which means he'll have good speed, good acceleration and good turning, just like Crash and Fake Crash. Finally, the last new character I want to add into the game. Bear in mind there are plenty of others that could have gone into the game on this list as well. There are loads more, but these are the ones that I specifically think should come into the game at this time, at the moment, when this comes out, which is like, what, a day or two after release. It doesn't mean that other ones, like characters from Spyro or Willy Wonka Cheeks or something like that, shouldn't come into this game as well. They probably should, but these are the ones that I think are a bit more urgent to put in. But anyway, the last character I think that we should definitely have in the game is Koala Kong. Again, he was present inside the Insane Trilogy. It shouldn't be too difficult to port him over to this game, quite frankly. And it would be nice to see Koala Kong in a racing game. I mean, we never really saw him in many of the Crash games. In fact, the ones we really saw him in were Crash Bandicoot 1 and also Crash Bash. He was in Twinsanity, but not really for very long. He was in it for like a few seconds. So it'd be nice to see him return in a racing game of Crash as well. And if he returns, I think we have to make him an advanced character, considering he is huge. So I believe he should be an advanced character and have amazing speed, great acceleration, and obviously terrible turning. But those are all the characters that I think should be added into the game at this current point in time. There are characters that I would have put on this list, but of course I know they're coming now, and those would have been Spyro and Tana, but obviously I know they're coming now anyway, so yeah, they're not on the list. The next section is a very brief section. It's quite a small one, and it's basically just me going over a few skins that I see are not present currently in the game, which I think should be. There aren't many of these. I could have probably sat down and come up with far more skins for all these different characters that are in the game already, as well as ones I want to obviously see in the game, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think we need to do that at this point. I would rather focus on just very specific skins that I think really would be beneficial to certain characters in this game. The first one I want to start with is Emperor Velo. Obviously, we have Emperor Velo in the game, which is great, I might add. Really nice to see him in the game. What we do have, though, is just a small version of Velo and a couple of different coloured versions of him. I think it would be really good to see the big version of Velo in this game as well. I don't see why that would be a terrible thing either, and the only reason I can think of it being slightly annoying for them is the fact that you would then have to change the stats and things for big Velo versus small Velo, which would be a little bit annoying, but at the same time, is that a terrible thing? You could have two versions of Velo kind of in one, depending which one you chose. So you could choose the big one or you could choose the small one. Or if they really, really wanted to, they could just keep big Velo stats, the same as little Velo stats, but there you go. I still think that big Velo should be in this game. He was like the most iconic look of Velo back inside Nitro Car, so it would be very good to see him in big version. Next character skins I would like to see are for Coco, and these are kind of small skins that obviously you wouldn't really look at much when it comes to Coco, because there are other skins that are far more iconic that are already in the game, which makes sense for them to be there, by the way. But these are two other skins that I think really would be nice to see as well in the game, especially as the first one on the left. If you haven't played the Game Boy game Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced, this is Coco when she gets basically tranced by Entranced. So she's kind of being mind controlled at the same time as being evil from Entranced's little sort of whirly thing that he has on his body. But yeah, that was this version of Coco, which would be cool to see in this game. Also, we do have like certain other characters like Entrance, for example, who already has the whirly thing on his body. So in some ways you could just do Coco's normal design, but put that whirly thing in her eyes, maybe change the colour a little bit, and then obviously change the outfit to look like the outfit there that's on the screen right now. But I think that would be an interesting one to see inside the game, and just kind of a silly, stupid one for Coco, which I think would be good. You could also play around with some jokey lines, which makes her sound evil, but at the same time good in a funny way. I'm sure you could do something stupid there. And the other skin on the right, most people won't recognise, I'm sure, at this point. And this is Evil Coco. Evil Coco was originally meant to be in Crash Twinsanity, but was cut from the game. But there were still parts of Evil Coco in the files, so it was obvious she was around. Of course, in Twinsanity you had Evil Crash, so I can see why they were trying to do Evil Coco. Also, it would be nice to make Evil Coco relevant again. At one point in time, when people found her in the game files, everyone made all these speculations as to what Evil Coco was meant to be about and what she would have done and things. And then she just kind of died off and disappeared. It would be nice to actually see Evil Coco have a purpose in the Crash universe, rather than just being content. And I think that this racing game would actually be one of the perfect places to do such a thing, by giving Coco a very evil look and design, similar to the one on the right here. Maybe change it up a little bit to make her look more evil. And then finally, for the last skin choice that I'm doing here, as like I said, I didn't want to go through tons of skins in this, just a couple, and this is for Crunch. Obviously we have Crunch in the game, and he was present in Nitro Kart and Beyond. Obviously his first appearance was in Wrath of Cortex. Specifically, I want to focus on this skin, which is again from the Game Boy game Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced, and this is when Crunch is being mind controlled by Entranced, and this is what his skin looked like. I think this would be an awesome skin to see within this game. Again, you could take the little mind control whirl thing off of Entranced and put it into Crunch's eyes, change the colour of it and so on. Obviously with this skin you would probably have to get rid of some things, like the shield would have to go, unless you put the shield on Crunch's like arm or something while he was driving, which wouldn't be a bad thing. That would look quite interesting, I think. Or on his back, and got rid of the jetpack that is currently on his back, as he won't need a jetpack considering he's not going to be flying in the kart game, he's just going to be in a kart. And yeah, maybe change his little gun into a natural arm rather than a gun. But yeah, it would still be good to see this skin as well, I think. And you could again muck around with voice lines and have good and bad sort of lines coming out of Crunch, or Crunch potentially saying something bad but then going, oh, I didn't mean to say that. But yeah, you can muck around with this. And again, you could just take Crunch's model that's already in the game and just do a little bit of fiddling about to make this, and that will give you mind control Crunch. Anyway, those are all the characters and skins that I think should come to the game at this current point in time. I may do another one of these in the future, possibly with other characters and things that I think should come into this game. However, for now, that's where I'm going to leave it at. Of course, I expect all these things to come in the Grand Prix further down the line, Obviously, we are going to be seeing certain things already, like we've obviously got Tana and the Trophy Girls next month. Then we've got the little dinosaur and baby Crash, baby Coco, and so on the next month. And then, of course, we have Spyro stuff the following month. And then it will carry on after that. And I'm sure we'll see some of these characters after the Spyro content Grand Prix. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think they will definitely do this justice. So far, Bearminator have done a great job when it comes to fan service with this game. They've included a lot of things that I didn't expect them to ever do. So I have to hold massive respect to them for this. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what characters you want to see come into the Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. And yeah, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and agreed with some of the characters I brought in. And of course, Bearminator, if you have watched this or listened to this, then I hope that some of this might have been useful to you as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.